Today on the Rise of the Challenge podcast.
I took the plea, man. I took the 20 years sentence, served 10 in prison. And that's what I did. And before we get into that saved my life. Was it a long time? It was. But the thing is I needed it. I needed 10 years. And I'm happy now today that happened, that occurred, that whole situation, how it played out. It saved my life.
Welcome to the Rise of the Challenge podcast. Joining today, he's a real estate agent, personal trainer, and star of Love After Lockup. It's Louie Fojut. How are you doing today, Louie?
Doing fantastic. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
We're so excited to have you on the show to talk about your rise to the challenge. What we like to do with all of our guests is go right to the beginning. Talk about where you're from and what you like doing growing up.
So, born and raised in New Jersey. Grew up up until about seventh grade, I lived in West Patterson, which is now known as Woodland Park. And then we moved up north, and I went to high school up in Wanacue, went to Lakeland Regional High School. And I like to play sports. I played sports my entire life until like my freshman year. And then I really started to get into partying, hanging out with girls, doing drugs, stuff along those lines. But yeah, I mean, I just basically your typical normal teenager, I would have to say, played football, baseball, basketball, hung out with friends after school, rode bikes, did all that typical stuff.
You talked about transitioning from one area to the next, and a lot of people can relate to that. I did it when I was in second grade, but was it hard for you to adjust from a new territory, especially when you said you moved during seventh grade, which you're kind of older at that time, and you're usually with a lot of friends, and then you have to start basically new friendships.
So let's do this. So actually in sixth grade, I moved to New York State for 1 year.
Okay.
So I moved to New York State for 1 year, and then that was in sixth grade, and then we moved back. So it was like that right there, I think was like the start of, I would say, my destructive path. Because like my destructive path, because I just started acting out, trying to be cool. I was a new kid in class, new kid in school, in the neighborhood. And I think like for me to try to fit in, I thought it was a good idea. And I thought it was cool at the time to like, do bad things. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think that's where it started sort of vandalizing, tagging stuff, things along those lines. And
Did you
yeah.
have that kind of like, I'm not afraid of anything kind of attitude? Like, if I got caught, I get caught. But I like that thrill of how extreme or how far I can go with these things.
I guess looking back at it, yeah, I didn't really care. My parents were divorced, and they had gotten divorced. I think it was in like fourth or fifth grade. And then, so with that being said, my mother and I we moved up north. You know what I mean, to New York. So I think the distance, leaving my friends, my parents being divorced, all that probably obviously played a role in it. She worked a lot, so I was home by myself a lot. So I like almost had some free will. Sometimes I wouldn't come home on a bus or I'd bring friends over, and I just didn't care, I guess, because I was on my own. There was no consequences because nobody was home. I never really got in trouble then though. Like at one time I got caught for knocking over mailboxes and stuff like that. I didn't get in trouble. My mom got mad at me. I got punished, this, that, the other. Um, that was for a year. And then when I moved back down to Jersey in seventh grade, uh, I hung out with some kids, and like their older brother, started smoking weed around us. And then like, so that's how I kind of transitioned into like knowing about drugs and stuff like that. So it was like seventh grade, I got in trouble. Um, and then eighth grade, we moved to another school. That's when I moved up north. And I still like hung out with my friends on the weekend because my dad lived down there. And that's just when I started to partake with weed at the time. You know what I'm saying? And so I would actually bring some up with me to the new town. And like I was selling, like in eighth grade, I was selling drugs.
Wow.
Um, and I actually got in trouble. I got caught. You know what I mean? But I got in a little bit of trouble, but nothing drastic. You know what I'm saying? And it just was unfortunate because I was really good in football, baseball, basketball, play sports, and I just thought it was a lot more fun to skip all that, like after school you'd have practice and I didn't want to do that no more. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to hang out with my friends, people would come over, and it just progressively got worse and worse. And like that's how it was. Like I went to school, I graduated high school, you know what I mean? Um, Good grades, stuff along those lines. And I wanted to be a meteorologist. Uh,
Okay.
I was obsessed with the weather, still kind of am. I love watching the weather app on my phone, especially if storms are coming through. So I was always really obsessed and fascinated with the weather. So I wanted to be a meteorologist, study hurricanes. And at the time, I graduated high school in 1999. And at that time, Florida State was like number one party school, number one school in football. They had a very good meteorology program. I applied to Florida State, didn't get in, but I did get into the Tallahassee Community College, and they had this 2+2 program, and I got in that. So I went down there, studied at the community college, got my AA, and then I transferred over to Florida State. So yeah, so that's just, leading up there. And it's just, I like to party. I did good in school, but I was working a lot, going to school, but I was also partying. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, your typical college stuff, I would think, most drinking beer, smoking weed, cocaine, stuff along those lines. But, you know, with um with addiction, apparently that runs through my family, through me. I suffered from that, and it just got worse. My addiction started to control my life.
Hmm.
And it's just, I feel like I ruined a lot of possibilities at that time while I was in school due to drugs and alcohol and stuff.
Especially with starting at a younger age and kind of leading all the way up to college. I mean, that's a good 10 plus years that you're experienced that kind of lifestyle. And especially you kind of talked about it where you were good at school, but you had that kind of different personality when it came to the social life. And a lot of times people struggle with both of those, where it's usually one takes over the other where you were able to balance it. And especially with Florida State, I mean, we still hear about certain colleges that are the party states and things like that. But I think college is where people really experiment. They kind of test themselves
Yes.
a little bit more, but you kind of were doing that way in advance of that. So it's kind of like in a way you were an expert per
Yeah.
se. You kind of could lead people through
Well,
that.
and that was the thing. Like, I, for some odd reason, always knew where to go and find stuff. Leave it up to me. I was the one to find it. And I think that was the biggest problem I had was I mean, literally today, as we speak, we are like our worst enemies, right?
Hmm.
We are our biggest opponents. We battle ourselves on a daily basis, every day from the time we wake up till the time we go to sleep until we die. But like, I was my worst enemy when it came to doing drugs. Like, it was to a point where we would go to parties and do drugs, but then eventually, like, it got so bad, like, I just veered off by myself. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, like, I kill all the parties. Like, I'm just doing it to get high on my own, work, go to school by myself. And, I had a serious problem. Um, and then even like the people I hung out were like, I remember this, like I was like, hey guys, you guys want to get some coke tonight? Hey, you got like I was the one that was the influencer. You know how like your parents are like, stay away from this third person, peer pressure. Like that was me. I was the one I was like, hey, you guys want to do this? You want to do that? And like, yeah, like I was that guy, unfortunately, but you know,
With addiction and things, do you feel that if someone you didn't have that maybe person to talk to about maybe things that were going on, or was there anything going on at the time that was still a catalyst for the lifestyle that you lived?
I don't think so. I just love to party. I love the mind altering state that drugs and alcohol made me feel,
Mhm.
like it was never enough and it was just like something else and something else and something else. And um I didn't realize how weak-minded I was, how out of control. Like I had no control of myself. It was completely taken over the drugs and alcohol. Didn't realize it. You always think you have control of everything. And like it just, as the years gone on and started piling up, like everything just got worse. Started to experiment with more drugs, different types of drugs. Uh, the quantity just got way beyond, it's just nuts. Just looking back and sometimes cut conversations I've have with people, the amount of drugs that I was consuming, I am surprised I'm still alive. I'm surprised I'm in the shape that I'm in, the condition that I am, and the way I look, because like when I tell you, Alex, like I partied, you know what I'm saying? Like, and this is another thing, I never had money because like every time I had money, I spent it on drugs, like I've
Mhm.
never never had money in my bank account, and it was just crazy. The lifestyle I was living was nuts.
Did you end up graduating from Florida State, or what happened during that time
Oh,
post
like
community college?
so I get my AA. I transfer over to Florida State into the meteorology program. Now, what I did notice about the meteorology program was that I'm telling you, like 95% of the kids, the students that were in the meteorology department, they didn't work. Like I had to work. Like I took out my own financial aid. Like so I'm working 40 hours a week trying to go to school full time. So when classes were over with, a lot of the kids would go up to the meteorology department,
Mhm.
go to the weather station, start to become TAs, teachers assistants, getting good with the professors. So it's like all about who you know. And I spoke to a couple people who were kind of in my similar situation, and they were like that graduated, and now they were going to get their graduate degree, and they're like, look, man, you need to be able to like communicate and network with the teachers, with the professors, with other students, with graduate students. Like you have to get your name out there. If not, like you're just not going to make it, because like you're going to have to do an internship at, the National Weather Station, wherever it is that you're going to have to go. Like you have to know somebody. So I ended up changing my major to math and physics. And I literally I did the 1 year meteorology, then I transferred to math and physics. I had a lot of math and physics under me already, so that's why I did it, and I continued to go. So like I went to Florida State for 2 years. I was literally on my senior year, and I thought like we were opening up a new pizzeria, and so they wanted me to run that pizzeria. So I was like, all right, the money was good at the time. Like I'm asking all these graduate students, like, what are you making? This, at the other. And it was just like, all right, I'm about to make some good money. It was like '04, '03, it was like '04. And I was making like 50,000 plus a year as a,
Wow.
yeah. So I'm like, this is good money. I'm running a restaurant. Cool. So I quit school, and like it just got worse. I got worse. Like I'm working, I'm playing pool after work, I'm playing poker at night, and I'm doing drugs. And like this is my everyday routine. And the days I didn't work, I like crashed out and slept. And like I did this for like a good full year. And then it just started, I started spiraling out of control, staying up for days, stealing money. Like it was just horrible. And this is like really, it's literally not me. Like I'm disappointing my family, my close friends, like myself. I didn't even realize it. But like, yeah, so like that's when I was had enough. I need to change. And that's when I decided to move up. My mom at the time lived in Georgia. So it was like a 5 hour ride. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna start all over again. I need a break. And so that's what I did. I picked up and just left. And I drove up and tried to start a new life, but I wasn't there but 2 days. 2 days, and I found where to go. And it just took off from there.
I was curious if you ever had that thought about like leaving the area, because it seemed like with the knowledge that you had with where things were at, where you could find it, it's like you're kind of just surrounding yourself at all times around that kind of lifestyle. And like a lot of people will say they'll just pick up their lives and move to somewhere because they needed a blank slate. They needed to not be around those people, maybe new kind of people to inspire or get them into the direction. With moving to Georgia, was that the same situation? You get right back into it, and because of what excites you is basically that kind of personality lifestyle.
That's exactly what happened. Like it took me 2 days and I literally found the spots to buy drugs. I got a job in it within a few days too, but it was just like I was right back at it, literally like nonstop. And um, I'm sorry, I thought I shut up my notifications.
You're
I did you hear it?
no.
Okay, cool. I'm sorry. Anyway, excuse me for interruption. So I thought I can just pick up, leave, start fresh, but you can't take it out of you. Like it's always within you. You know what I mean? Like now that I'm sober, like and my life has changed drastically. Like looking back, like you think you have control and you can do all this stuff, but you really can't, like unless you really want it. So I didn't realize the amount of police that were in Georgia too at the time where I live. And like it was literally probably a few months and I got arrested. Uh I got in trouble for I ran up a tab at a bar. I had a credit card or I had a debit card that was linked to the bank account that I had down in Florida. I knew it didn't work. So like I ran up a tab and then like right at the end of the night I tried to leave without paying, but they caught me. I got arrested. And then from that point forward, it was just like it seemed like every year I was getting arrested. Another year go by, get arrested. And the charges were just stacking up and they were just progressively getting worse. Now, my addiction was getting worse too. So, mind you, like everything is just getting worse and worse and worse, but I'm not realizing it. Like, again, like it wasn't until it was too late that I realized how bad I was, you know?
Mhm.
But yeah, it's just like every year I get in trouble, get arrested, go on probation, maybe get off of probation, get arrested again. DUIs, possession charges, it was just like and they just got worse. You know, misdemeanors eventually turned into felonies.
When was the big felony, like the big kind of charge that kind of you would think it would be a wake-up call, but the big one.
The big one, the wake up call that I got. Okay, so November 29th, 2012. I um I was dope sick. I was struggling. I was on heroin at the time. I will say I was a huge, huge part of that opioid epidemic in the 2000s. Major, like that hit me hard. So I basically I burned all my bridges. My family wasn't sending me money. Mom wasn't giving me money. I was pawning stuff. Like it was, I had nothing. Panhandling, whatever it is I had to do to get money, I was doing it. And it was to a point where like I just couldn't do it no more. So I decided like, you know what, I'm gonna steal, like I'm gonna go rob a place. And like,
Okay.
yeah. And this is what's going on in my head, right? I've been sick for about a day and a half. And so make a long story, well, it's probably not a long story short, but not short, but I actually went to a liquor store and I was buying my dealer. I had a little bit of cash. I mean, I was buying my dealer a 6 pack of Heineken to go down to his house so he can hook me up. And when I had a knife on me, when the clerk opened up the cash register drawer to um to make the transaction, I seen the money and like I pulled out a knife and I snatched up the money out of the register. And when I did that, he like hit my hand. The knife fell beyond behind the register by him. He picked it up and chased me. And I ran out the door, jumped in my car, and left. So at this point, I think I'm clear. I got a little bit of money. I went and saw my drug dealer at the time. I got my drugs, went back to the house, and I proceeded to, to use. Chilled out for a little while. And I called my mom up. You know what I'm saying? Like I had her car at the time. So I called my mom and she's like freaking out. She's like, "What did you do?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about? Like I didn't do anything. You know, I'm playing stupid." And she's like, "You did something. It's all over the news. What did you do?" And I'm like, "Mom, I'm telling you, I did nothing." And she says, "Hold on a second." And she put the detective on the phone.
Oh,
Says, "Hi, Louie." He says, "Hi, Louie. This is Detective Waddell." I'll never forget this. And I was like, "Hey." He's like, "Look, man, I just want you to know you have a couple options here. We can do this the easy way or the hard way." He's like, "We have you on camera. You robbed a liquor store. It's all over the news. And we have your house surrounded right now. So I looked outside and I didn't see anybody. Nothing. So it was just quiet, right? So I'm like, man, whatever. Like I really didn't believe him at first. He's like, look, Louis, he's like, we can come in right now and get you. If we do that, it's not going to be pretty. Or you can surrender and walk out the front door. Now I'm getting nervous. Obviously, I did do something. So I had a little bit more drugs left. I was like, just hold on a second, I'll be out. I did the rest of my drugs and I walked out the door. And as soon as I walked out, I got bombarded. They came out of nowhere, guns drawn, threw me on the ground, uh, put me in cuffs, put me in the back of the car, arrest me. And that was November 29th, 2012. Um, I was on probation. I was on first offender's felony probation 8 months prior to that for a possession charge. So with that being said, I was denied bail. And yeah, so from November 29th, 2012, I was was in jail, then I went to prison and I wasn't released until November 29th, 2022. So, with that being said, in the state of Georgia, if you get convicted at that time, if you got convicted of an armed robbery, it was a mandatory minimum sentence of 10 years to the door. There's no 2-for-1 good behavior. There is no parole. It's a parole ineligible charge. Like it's a mandatory sentence. Um, I got a lawyer. I was hoping we could beat the charge, not necessarily beat the charge, but not do that time. But it was inevitable, man. Like I had to plea out. The first plea they came with me was a 30-year sentence, due 15.
Oh,
Uh I said no. Then they came at me with 20 years, serve 12. I said no. And then my lawyer was like, there's one more. He's like, it's a 20-year sentence. You serve 10 years in prison to the door and you have 10 years of probation. He's like, if you don't want that, that's fine. We can take it to trial. Now, if you take it to trial and you get convicted and found guilty of the armed robbery, they're going to give me a life sentence. A life sentence in the state of Georgia at the time, might be still now, is 30 years. And like I was saying, it's a mandatory sentence. So you're going to basically do 30 years. So I took the plea, man. I took the 20 years sentence, served 10 in prison. So, and that's what I did. And before we get into that saved my life. Was it a long time? It was. But the thing is I needed it. I needed 10 years. And I'm happy now today that that happened, that occurred, that whole situation, how it played out. It saved my life 100%.
as this show is all about rising the challenge, spending 10 years in prison is definitely a rise of the challenge moment because you're basically stuck in there. What's the biggest thing those 10 years taught you about yourself?
So I'll say this. The first five, I was I will say this. There are a lot. The access to drugs in prison is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So with that being said, it also depends on where you're at, but 9 times out of 10, you can easily get drugs, easily available to you. So the first 5 years I used. I was gambling, I was using, I was again, my family was sending me money, especially my mom. But November 25th, 2017, I woke up that day, that morning. I said it many times before. This is the day, and I've been clean since. So I've been drug free since November 25th, 2017. But I didn't mention this. I've been alcohol free since Labor Day weekend 2012.
Wow.
So
That's
I haven't
awesome.
had a drink since then, but no drugs. This year will be 8 years drug free, and I realized that it took me, I would say, a good year to 2 years after I finally got completely sober. Like because all the toxins it's just crazy. Like for my mental state to get back to quote unquote normal, right? Like who's
Mhm.
really normal? But I never realized how important mental health was. Um, just having control of your mental state is so important. Just being strong-minded is just it's just so imperative to your life to be able to make conscious decisions, to be able to think about what you're going to do before you do it and think about the consequences, is huge. And I learned that. It took me a long time. Like, obviously it's every day is a work in progress for me. It is for everybody, right? We're never going to be perfect. No one will. But as long as we can strive and work to be better on a daily basis, I don't see anything wrong with that. I eventually I learned from my mistakes, which a lot of people don't do. Just looking back, I really feel bad. I will say who suffered the most are not the people doing the time, but the people who do the time with you. They are the ones that suffer the most, especially on an emotional and a financial level, right? So, with that being said, I have a 16-year-old son, and I was away for 10 years. So, with that being said, I'm still working on trying to build that relationship back, right? I think he suffered the most. Him and my mom, right? My dad, my family, people like that, they suffered the most because those are the ones that have supported me financially, emotionally. Um, and that's stuff you'll never get back, you know? So it's just such a huge learning process. And what's so scary and so sad is that there's more people who don't come out of it and
Hmm.
learn the lesson, right? Because it's just sad. I watched 60, 70-year-old men still continue to get high. I watched 30 and 40-year-old men come into prison and decide to join a gang. Like, you're 40 years old. Like, why are you joining? Like, it's just crazy how many weak-minded people there are out there. Like, the whole gang situation, I get if you're on the streets, you don't have family. Like, I can understand that to a point, right? But when you're in prison, like, I just don't get it. But it just teaches you, man, to really realize how strong or weak you are. Because being in prison is not for the weak-minded people. Like, it's not. You will crumble in there. You will, and I watched it daily. Um, like, it's a scary situation. You never know. People are, I've been, one of my bunkmates was a murderer, been around rapists, like for real, straight up hardcore criminals, never coming home, been around them. And you'll be surprised how many people are actually really smart. Like, they might have made bad decisions, but like they're very like just very creative. It's just nuts, just how many different people's mind states there are in there. Like, there's so many different types of people, and like, and you just throw them into one area, and it's just like it. One day could be very calm and cool and collective, and the next day it's just freaking haywire. You know what I'm saying? Like, and as long my only if anybody hears this that has to do any time or is in prison, like, you control your own destiny. Like, if
Yep.
you just mind your own business, you stay out of all the bullshit and you just stay in your path, man. Do your time yourself. Don't let the time do you. I've heard this so many times. Like, you'll be fine. Stick up for yourself, stand up for yourself. Like, just a lot of people, we create our own reality, right? So it's like, at the end of the day, I don't care if somebody ratted on you. Like, I told this to people and they look at me like I'm nuts. But if somebody ratted on you, they want to blame the person that ratted on them. But I turned around and I was like, look, man, I get that. But if you weren't making the bad decision in the first place, you wouldn't even be in that position. So at the end of the day, it's still your fault. Take responsibility for what you did. Like, you decided to rob this place with three other people. Okay. You did that. So now there's four people. Just because one of those four people decided to rat on you, it's not his fault. It's still your fault because you made a decision to rob that place. Right. So it's just people get so easily influenced about on others. Right. They don't know how to take control themselves. It's
And it's so true. Like any situation, taking even outside of doing any criminal actions, people in work, professional,
right.
personal life, any actions they do, how they talk to someone, how do they treat someone, you have to take ownership in that because you're the one who actually did whatever you did. You're the one that typed the message. You're the one that talked to a person, the physical action. And I think nowadays people like to blame other people. because
Oh,
they don't want to look less than someone, be at fault. They want to look better. And I think I'm at that stage for me where it's like I will second guess making an action, but if I know it's the best option in a positive way, I'll do it. And if
right.
it doesn't go the right way, it's a learning opportunity. And I think you're taking this journey that you've been on, and congratulations on sobriety, because that's a huge
Thanks.
milestone. You're taking this and you're really utilizing it as a learning opportunity, even from the content you share, the stories you share, and being on shows. You're inspiring, helping so many people that maybe were at that age when you started to try to get them to stop, or people who are older and they're getting involved to stop and be think about the decisions that they're going to make. Because if you could go back, you wouldn't do the things you did.
No,
Because,
definitely.
like you mentioned, you took away time in your life. And now you're taking full advantage at an older stage to do the things you wanted to do.
Right. Yes, like I'm 43 years old, right? So if you look at it, 43 years old, I literally spent a quarter of my life in prison. So
Yep.
it's like 0 to 10 doesn't count, 10 to 20, high school. From 20 to 30, like I was in another world. And from 30 to 40, I was in prison. So it's like, it's just crazy because I don't know. It's just like I don't want people also to get the wrong idea. Like I've made it through it. I'm making the right decisions now. Like, so I'm not saying it's okay. You can wait this long. No, it's not. Like, because sometimes people are like, oh, well, I've heard this before. Like, man, you waited 40 years. Like, and now look at you. Like, look at me. Like, I've been out of prison for 2 years, right? I have so much to do. Like, I've done a lot in these 2 years, but like in comparison to your quote unquote normal 43-year-old, if you look at them, like the ones who've made the right decisions, not bad, of course, like they own homes. They're like, they're doing well off. Like I am not even close to that. You know what I'm saying? So no, if I was able to go back, I don't think I would ever touch drugs or alcohol. That changed my life. Like, you know what I mean? And it's not cool. A lot of people think it's cool. Now there are some people who can control it, right? Like there's some people who can control. They might just do a little bit on Friday, Saturday, they're done.
Hmm.
Come Monday, they're good to go. Like I'm not like that, right? So I know I don't have a limit. Like I can't even stop. I don't even want to take people like you want to have a drink. No, I don't want to drink nothing. I don't crave it. None of that. I don't wake up every day and wonder how am I going to make it? Like it's done, And if I knew this when I was in my 20s, I can almost guarantee you I'd probably be a multimillionaire, very successful entrepreneur because like my mindset right now is like it's never stopping. You know what I mean? Like I know that good things are coming eventually.
Well, you would be on the Weather Channel being a meteorologist.
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, or on the
Exactly.
local news doing the weather
Yeah.
report.
Yeah, exactly. I would be chasing hurricanes or something like that.
Something that people probably don't expect is to find love in prison or, well, outside of prison. Talk about, okay, leading up to before the show. How did that all happen?
Okay, so I spent 6.5 years at one camp prison, right? Called Riverbend Correctional Facility. I was there for 6.5 years. I'm coming up on like 3 years, right? And they say if like I didn't get no I got a little bit of trouble, but nothing crazy, right? So they have these camps it's called the reentry camps. Usually they're a 2-year program, and then you go to a transition center or go home, something along those lines. So I will never forget this. One night, I also was a parlay man. I was the bookie in prison. Like when I got sober, like I needed to you can hustle, you can make a lot of money in prison. Let me just tell you that. So I was the bookie. So I had a lot of food, a lot like I was doing my thing, right? And every night, like I'd get my stuff situated for the next day. And I just remember sitting there, and all of a sudden they came to the door. They opened up the door and they're like, Fojut, pack your stuff. And I was like, I got nervous, right? I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting transferred. Like, that's the thing. I was so comfortable where I was at. And like, you're going to a new prison, like, holy shit. And I was like, and then I'm like, all right. Like, everyone's like, oh man, you're going to go to, everyone's excited, because I've been doing some time and like, I'm getting close to going home. So I'm packing all my stuff up. I'm getting situated, and I find out that I'm going to a place called Metro Reentry Facility, which is great. It's a reentry program for 2 years, and then you go to the transition center. So I go to the reentry program there, do that for 2 years. Um, and then I get word. I was working in commissary at the store, and one of the transfer officers came to the window where I was at, and he's like, "Fojut, I got some good news for you." And I was like, "What's up?" And he's like, "You're getting transferred tonight." And I'm like, "I am." He's like, "Yeah, you're going to a TC." I'm like, "No way!" I was super excited. I get all my stuff situated that night, get transferred. I go to a TC, and when you get to TC, you're allowed to you're allowed to get phones, all this stuff. You get to work, you get to save money. You're literally on your way out to the door. It's good for people who've done a lot of time, Like I just did 9 years in prison. Like I haven't seen society in forever. So go to the transition center and phones are everywhere. Like this is the crazy part, man. So you're at a transition center. This means you're literally about to go home. Okay. All you got to do is you got to go to work, pass a drug test whenever they give you a drug test. Like you're going home. When I tell you, man, you have guys that are at the transition center about to go home who are doing drugs.
Yeah.
They're not going to work. They're getting sent back to prison on new charges. Like, what is wrong with you? So this is going on all around too. Anyway, um, so there's phones around, so I'm getting on the phone and said the other things are good. And I reach out, like I had to basically make a new Facebook page because I didn't remember my passwords. And everybody that's on my old Facebook, I was able to like friend them all. And I saw a picture of Melissa and I was like, damn, she looks so good. Like looked totally different for high school, whatever. And like so I messaged her, hey Melissa, what's up? You looking good, blah blah. And like not the I think the next day she messaged me back. She's like, "Hey, what's up?" And like from that day forward, right? We were talking. This happened actually like I want to say January 9th. Like we started talking, right? January 9th, 2022. So, with that being said, we talking and like every day for hours talking, and we're just hitting off things are going good. And like I fall in love with her like so fast. And so I think we were talking about like, oh, I asked her, have you ever heard of the show Love After Lockup? That'd be so crazy if we were on it, this, that, the other. And so she, does her little thing. She sets it up to where she tells her story and then they respond to her and ask if she's down to do an interview. And so they did an interview with her and they're like, all right. They love the story. They want her if they can interview me. So I was able to set that up when I finally got a job. I was working, so I had my phone, this, that, the other, did a little Zoom interview, and it just so happened like everything was planned. Like it was the timing was perfect because I was getting out that November. I think we're in like April or May, somewhere around there. And I'm getting out in November and they're starting to film for the show. So they asked us, of course, if we want to be on it, this, that, the other. They really can't film me because I'm still away. And so they film her. They did me like with a little Zoom call, whatever, stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? This was for Love during lockup. And so they had told me that it was supposed to air after I get out, right? Now, mind you, they flew Melissa down to Georgia. She met my mom for the first time on camera. They filmed like crazy, right? So I still couldn't believe this happened. Like, bro, I just did 9 years. I'm doing my 10th year. I'm gonna be on TV. Like things are just like it's really like mind blowing. They tell me it's gonna air after I get out because I don't want to go back to prison. Anytime you mess up, you go back to prison. So everything's cool. Then we find out the release date of the show was like, I think it was like October 22nd or 25th, something like that. It was literally like a month and a few days before I get out. And I'm freaking out. I'm like, if they air this shit, like they're sending me back to prison. And like, no, you're gonna be fine. Anyway, um, I remember laying on my bunk one day, and mind you know how they promote it,
Mhm.
they promote the show. So I remember laying on my bed, I lay right by the window, and some dude bangs on the door, like on the window, wakes me up, and he like points to the TV. And when I look at the TV, there it is. It's like a promotion of me, my picture, like Melissa and the show. And I'm like, oh my God. And then so it's coming this Friday. So Friday comes, the show airs. Everybody's freaking out at the TC. They're like, "Oh my God, why didn't you say nothing?" I go to work Monday, go to work Tuesday. I get um I get a call from my boss on Tuesday. "Hey Louie, I don't know what you did, but the TC's coming up here to get you." I'm like, "What?" They're like, "Yeah, I don't know what you did." I thought he was joking, right? So I'm like, "Man, he always jokes around. My boss always played around." And then he hangs up, and I'm like, "Man, he's just playing around." Then he calls me back, and he's like, "No, for real. Look, this, that, together." And I was like, "Jesus, I am like freaking out." I call Melissa. I tell her. She's kind of getting nervous. Come to find out, when I go back to my work where the shop was, I like called the boss up, who like received the call from the TC, and I asked him what happened, and he told me. And he's like, "No, they really are. They're looking for you. They didn't want to come and get you. They're gonna deal with you when you get back to the TC." And I'm like, "Oh my God." So I'm like freaking out. I get everything situated that I need to, right? I got like literally 33 days left until I max out. 33 days. I get back to the TC. They do a shakedown, strip search before you can go in. So I go to walk in, and the captain's there, and he's like, "Hey man, I got to deal with you later. You stay outside." And I was like, "All right." So as soon as I walk, after everybody leaves, as soon as I walk in to the shakedown room they have, I seen like my stuff in a bag to like the left. And I was like, he's like, "What did you do?" I was like, "I didn't do nothing." Like, and I didn't do nothing, you know? He's like, "What did you do?" And asked me questions. Like, I have no idea. I kind of played stupid, right? Like, what am I supposed to tell him? Like, this is why. I knew why. And then so they strip search me, and I get on the jumpsuit to go to another prison to get transferred. And they knew why. They just didn't say nothing. And I get to the prison, and I end up sitting in the solitary confinement for a while, and then they transfer me to a prison that's 4.5 hours south. I go to, they say they're doing it. I go to the prison down there. They said they're doing it for my protection or whatever. But so I'm here at this prison, the biggest prison in Georgia at the time, a place called Wheeler. And I mean, people are getting killed, stabbed up. Like I I lost all my contact. I couldn't talk to Melissa. We have to do like the email through JPay. Like it was nuts. And like I was mad at first, right? But I try to take everything as a lesson. I try to take the positive out of everything. So with that being said, I was like, you know what, man? I told myself, I'm like, this is a sign. Like, this is a sign that if you do mess up again, like you're going back to prison. Because honestly, you have it good at a TC.
Hmm.
You wake up early, the bus takes you or the van takes you to your job. You're working all day long. You know what I mean? You're making money, and you can't spend your money. Like you don't have access. So like I'm saving my money up, you know? So I did this for like 10 months. So I had good, decent money saved up. So I took it as a lesson. I literally worked out for 33 straight days, hardcore. I minded my own business. Like I didn't deal with nobody. Um, I did like eventually talk to the assistant warden. She knew what was going on. And the day of my release, like everything's set up because they're gonna film my release.
Hmm.
So like I'm here, finally got on the phone with Melissa. Like I have my mom do a three-way with her. We're talking, everything's getting situated. And so the day before my lease, they put you in solitary confinement for your protection. So because there's times that when people who have life sentences, if they find out like you're going home, like they get jealous, man. Like sometimes people get killed the day they're about to go home because like somebody else will kill them. Like they'll get stabbed up, they get beat up, like whatever. So they do it for your protection, put you in solitary. Um, so you're all right. Anyway, obviously I couldn't sleep. And the next morning, they got me up early. They're like, "Look, man, I don't know what you got going on or who you are, but there's like camera crews outside. Like, we got to get you out of here. The warden wants you out of here." And so man, that was probably one of the most, it's crazy, right? So I'm getting released, and I'm walking towards the gates, and like I start to cry, man. Like literally, like I'm actually going home. Um, and I'm looking, there's nobody there, right? This is what's so crazy. I am visualizing like cameras, my mom, Melissa, like all these people. And as I'm walking to the gate, like the first gate opens up, I walk out, they shut the gate, and then the other gate opens up, and I walk out and nobody's around. Like there's nobody there. And I was like, And then finally a van pulled up, opened up the door, like, Louie, come on, get in here, get in here. So I get in a van and it's the producer, security. And at the time, like we had to do this COVID test. We had to go to the gas station. I had to sign a
Oh
contract.
yeah.
I had to sign a contract. I had to get a COVID test done. It took us like almost an hour and a half to get all this shit done before I can actually see Melissa, see my mom, and then like it was like for like almost 11 days straight from the day I got out of prison, we filmed for like 10-hour days. Um, so it was intense, but guess what though? I'm so happy we did that because like it kept me going. It was like a push. It was like work because it is work, right? So it's like I got up early. We filmed all day. Like it was very overwhelming. It was incredible. It was amazing. And I'm happy it happened because like a part of me was like, when I get out, I want to chill out. Like I want a vacation. I want to relax, like I just did 10 years of prison. But like I'm glad I did not do that. I got out, we filmed for like 10, 11 days, and I got a job right away and I just kept going. And so it was good. It was amazing, but this was in Georgia. So I did that for like 7 months, man. And it was what the crazy part about it is after filming was over with, Melissa flew back home to Jersey. I was staying with my mom and I was working at the pizzeria I used to work at prior to me going to prison. Alex, I literally was doing the exact same routine,
Oh.
exact same, going to the pizzeria, driving the same route to my mom's house, the same routine that I was doing prior to me going to prison. So really wasn't much going on. And one thing I got to say about Melissa, and I love her so much for this, is she is a pusher. You know what I mean? Like she doesn't play. I was only working 4 days a week at the time. The other three, I really wasn't doing anything. I did get my certification to be a personal trainer within a couple months after I got out. So I was doing that. But she's like, you need to like, obviously she wanted me to move up there with her and be with her, but like at the same time, she was pushing me like, yo, you gotta do something. You know what I mean? It was like a dead end. You know what I'm saying? I was getting really complacent, really comfortable. Like I needed a change. And that's one thing that's so amazing about her is like she's so supportive and she shows tough love in such an amazing way that like she only wants the best for you. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And it might be hard for other people to see it that way, but like I thank her so much for that. You know what I mean? For where I am now, like she's definitely helped me get to where I'm at. I'm not saying that I don't know if I probably would have done it, but like she's definitely been supportive and helped me along the way. So I moved up here after 7 months and yeah, I got a job right away up here and started doing the training, had some other ventures. But surprisingly, man, like I had so many different things I'm doing. I'm trying to do this, trying to do that, trying to do this. And someone like brought real estate to my mind. They brought it up to me like, yeah, I think you'd be a really good real estate agent. And I was like, can I even get a real estate? Like, I'm on probation for like 9 more years. I got an armed robbery, two aggravated assaults. These are my charges, right? I've been denied so many jobs. Go on a interview. Me and you are having a great interview, right? We might have a good interview, but at the end of the day, you got to run a background check on me.
Hmm.
So this is out of your control, right? So you run a background check on me. Policy says you can't hire a violent criminal, someone with a violent offense. Now, a lot of these jobs out here, a lot of these places, they hire felons. Yes, they do, but they don't hire violent felons. So there's a difference. So I started just going on an interview and talking to people and asking them right away, no cut. Hey, do you hire violent criminals? Do you hire people with felonies? Because like I'm wasting your time and my time. Let's stop beating around the bush. Let's get to the point because like it's just pointless, like because they're gonna run a background check on you. So I talked to the broker and he's like, here are some of the steps you have to do. You need letters of recommendations, you need this, that, the other. And in this whole time, within these past couple of years, like um, I'm actually speaking next week at a high school again. I spoke at a high school last year. I belong to a substance abuse alliance or Rockaway Township Substance Abuse Alliance program. Speak to the kids. They invited me last year for a celebrity day, which was absolutely incredible. Played a celebrity basketball game, met some celebrities, I was considered a celebrity. Talk to the nuts. So I've been pushing forward, man. I got into the real estate class. I had 4 letters of recommendation. Uh, the one letter of recommendation I got was from the Hazlitt Police Department. Now, that to me, I feel like that helped get my license because I once I passed, well, the test was hard as hell. It took me 3 times, not gonna lie. Studied for that, man. Got my license, passed the test. Didn't get my license right away until I had to submit all my judgments of all my crimes, all my charges. I had to get copies of that, submit that, letters of recommendation, and I had to write a short bio. Once I submitted all that, I got accepted and I got my real estate license, man. And you know, that's what I try to tell. Like, I know I post every day. It might be real consistent, like about it, but the thing is like, or repetitive, if you will. But the thing is, consistency is so important. Like, I can say I want to do this, and you can tell me that I can't, right?
Mhm.
And I might believe you, especially a couple years ago, maybe even last year, I might believe you. I still might think you might be right, but now I'm in a point in my life where, like, you know what? Even though you say, "Who are you?" Right? I'm gonna do whatever it is that I can to see for myself if I can get it or not. People said you can't get it, but guess what? There were some people who said that I could, but I made a decision to try to get it, and I was gonna go until I couldn't go no more. Even if I had to go in front of the commission of realtors, I would have done that. But I got it, and I just try to show people and tell them, like, hey, man, you can do it. You just got to put your mind to it. Don't give up because there's no point of it. If you don't try, you don't know. So yeah, now I'm a real estate licensed, been a real estate agent for almost 3 months now. I actually sold my first house the Friday. I got my first closing the Friday before Christmas, which was
That's awesome.
incredible. I got a few clients that I'm working with now. I do the training in the morning. I still work at the restaurant a couple of days a week, hoping to just fully transition into the real estate industry. Yeah, I speak, like I said, I'm speaking at a high school next week, and I'm trying to do as much as I can, man, and stay strong, stay positive. I always tell everybody that on a daily basis, and I just try to help motivate people. I wanted to get into the recovery field, but like I live in New Jersey. It doesn't the pay is rough. I'm not gonna lie to you. I want to help people, I do, but at the same time, I still need to make a living. And another thing that's good about real estate, man, is when you find somebody their home, like you're really, really impacting somebody's life.
Yep.
I'm saying like you're changing somebody's life. Like when I first got my first clients their house and I seen tears in her eyes, like I'm an emotional guy, man. They say prison makes you hard. Prison didn't make me hard. Prison made me realize that like how much we take for granted. Like I became more emotional coming out of prison because like we take so much for granted. You don't realize it until it's gone.
Yep.
But like by me coming out of prison and doing all that time, like I just love and cherish everything now. So
You
yeah.
talked about not being able to do recovery, but I feel like you're going to find the way. And I'm going to use what exactly you just said is if someone tells you you can't do it, or there's some way the obstacles, you're going
Right.
to find a way to do it. And I live by those words all day long because I feel like I hate using it, the word haters are going to hate. They're going to hate you because you're going to go and achieve that. And people are going to try to stop you because they might be going through something and they want other people to suffer at the same time as them.
Totally.
And I always say, I rise to the challenge. I will overcome any obstacle. And you saying that you don't, you want to do that, you're going to find that way. It's
I
going to,
guess I am too, though, if you think about it. Like, I guess I am helping people.
you are speaking, doing
So you're
speaking,
right.
like even at those high
Thank you for pointing that out.
you're making a difference to those kids because you don't know what they're going through at that time. And something you might say, they're going to remember, and then they're going to look back at it and be like, Louis told me this. Or they're going to be in a situation, be like, Louis mentioned something. And then you're going to, even though you're not physically doing something, there is something that they're going to take away from you talking to them that is going to make a huge impact on them.
And it has this one kid, man. I spoke to the 6th grade class in October, and Like it literally it brought tears to my eye. I'm speaking to 300 sixth graders, okay? You can hear a pin drop in that room. And the one kid asked me, he's like, "Man, my brother, he is an addict. He suffers from drug use." And like he's like, "If my brother was here right now, like what can you possibly say to him to help him?" And like when he said that to me, it's like I looked at him in the eyes and I kind of started talking and he started crying. And when he started crying, I started tearing up, and like his friends around him were real supportive. Coming to find out, man, that he ended up talking to the counselor. Like I made it, I did, and like I helped him, and I helped his brother too. So yes, you're absolutely correct, 100%. And that's another reason why I do it too. Eventually I would like I'm volunteering this. You know what I'm saying? The one place they do pay, but like I would like to get paid to do stuff, but like that's like one of my main dream jobs to be able to speak, to do motivational speaking, to share my story and to get paid for it. Like that would be incredible, right? But in the meantime, I'm still going to try to do that as much as I can to where I can get to that level, maybe. And even if I don't, that's cool too. But I appreciate every opportunity that I get to speak to people. You know what I'm saying? Like that's why I like to do something like this. Because I want more people to hear my story. I know there's a lot of people out there that can relate. And like, if I can do it, like I know they can. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I was always a person to say this when it comes to like talking to people. Would you rather talk to somebody who's actually been there and done it, or would you rather talk to somebody who just has, and I'm not shying away on people who have doctorates in recovery and stuff like that. Like that's cool, but at the same time, like have you ever been on the streets? Like you really know what these people are going through. Like you don't actually physically and mentally know. Like I do, you know what I'm saying? But like they don't. So like hearing me talk and hearing them talk, I feel when somebody's going through it, they will relate more to me than they would somebody else. But again, I'm not downing them because they know stuff that I don't. But at the same time, like in reality, like I know what you're going through. I've been there. You know what I'm saying?
The same way with me as a type 1 diabetic. I learn more from another type 1 diabetic than maybe a
Right.
doctor because the diabetic has lived it out. And the doctor knows from a medical standpoint. But the final question I'll ask you for someone that's listening to this interview based on your journey and experience, what tips or advice would you give them to overcome obstacles, accomplish their goals, and rise to the challenge?
Don't ever give up and stop listening to all the negative and outside noise because, like you were saying earlier, people are going to hate on you. I was told if people are talking about you or people are hating on you, you're doing the right thing. A lot of people aren't strong enough to push forward, right? It's easy to give up. But at the end of the day, the reward, when you accomplish something and you reach your goal, the satisfaction that you feel is just incredible. And so I just learned never to doubt yourself. I got a tattoo. It says, "I can and I will." When I was in prison, I used to tell people, stop saying you can't. Like you can. Anytime that you mentally put it in your head that you can't do something, it's like you are controlling yourself and you can't do it. But if you keep telling yourself you can do it, like I promise you can. Like always try to eliminate all the negativity around you because it's just gonna bring you down. You have to find a positive in everything that you do. Every negative situation, there is a positive thing out of it. 100%.
Louie, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show and talking about your rise to the challenge. You're inspiring so many people, and we are excited to see what the future looks like for you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Tune in next time to hear my next guest talk about their rise to the challenge. Remember to follow and subscribe on all major audio platforms. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to get full-length episode and video format. What path do you take to accomplish your goals? You decide.